There we go, green. Hey everybody, this is Philip, here with John Stallman.
Good evening.
We're here at the hub with an evening update after they're passing out emergency hurricane supplies to a lot of evacuees. We've got some hub folks hanging out, pulling down the tarps to get ready for the storm that's coming tonight and tomorrow. There's a lot of uncertainty now where the storm's going to go. We're going to look at some of the tracks here, but we're also going to focus a little bit more on the lava flow, what the volcano is doing, that kind of thing. So we'll kind of cover what we can. We got a little soundtrack here behind us tonight, so hopefully that's a little more entertaining for you guys. Hopefully you guys can still hear us. Good to see you guys. You guys come in here. So let's see, how should we start? Should we start talking about the hurricane?
Yeah.
All right, so we are currently now under a tropical storm warning. It's been upgraded from a watch within the last few hours, meaning the effect of Hurricane Hector is now coming within range of the island. You know, there are some picking up winds, some strong storm surge coming in on the south shore especially. We haven't seen it or seen very many pictures of it, but we trust that it is happening out there.
South Point Road is closed.
South Point Road is closed, yeah.
I saw that on the Hawaii Tracker group.
Yeah.
So South Point Road below Kīlauea Road is closed unless you're resident only due to high winds. That's for South Point Road.
Right, so there's some effects, yeah. The other thing going on today is that huge brush fire in Mauna Loa, up above the Kīlauea area, along the Mauna Loa Strip Road. Seems to be affecting or threatening Kīpuka area right now. We can talk about that a little bit later as well. But yeah, let's start off with what we know about the hurricane. I'm just gonna go with, I mean, there's a lot of different things out there. I'm gonna focus on a post that Harry Durgan put up today on Puna Weather and Hawaii Tracker. So basically, he's saying that the storm is forecast to make its closest approach 210 miles south of Hilo, with 40-mile-an-hour winds extending 145 miles from the center, which means that Hilo is probably not likely to get tropical storm winds. Maybe by South Point, that closest point to the storm, might get the highest winds down there. The rest of us will probably have increased winds, windier than normal, but it's probably not likely to be full hurricane force winds on the island up here, at least in a Puna area. Kau area might be a little different, so thanks for the report from Kau. So we're sure winds are picking up. I saw that Milika had a report from Hilo, winds picking up there a little bit also. Here in Pahoa at the hub, we have not even a breeze. Maybe a bare breeze. Yeah, I'll kind of show you guys. Can't really see a lot, but if I can. Oh, well, for one thing, there is no glow in the sky. That's where the glow usually goes, is right there. So we got no glow in the sky today. So that's a change for us, right? We have reports that lava is still down in the middle of Fissure 8, kind of bubbling up, making a small pond of lava, but it hasn't actually come up high enough to really reflect or make much glow, anything like that. So that's interesting too. We're kind of just waiting for reports. We don't have as many flyovers today and tomorrow and yesterday as we normally do, given that Scott Wilson's had some plane engine problems, and everything worked out safely, thankfully. But he's grounded for a couple of days basically. So we don't have quite as much aerial photography as before, but we do have some USGS images released tonight. We'll get to those here shortly too. So let me start with like some of the hurricane images here, just to kind of show you guys what's going on here. All right, so here is a recent satellite image showing, you know, what the storm looks like, its size compared to the island, and we're in the direction it's coming towards us right there. There are a couple. Oh yeah, we got little pointers now. Pointers. Yeah, so thanks to Susan who gave us a nice little pointer, so we'll try to use here. So remember to use it instead of my big fat finger. So yeah, here's the path of the hurricane so far. Come up through here, and this area here is a forecast path going up here. So they're actually forecast. It kind of turned north towards us over the course of the day earlier, and it's being forecast to go mostly west, but a little bit north as well, and kind of swing by to the south of the island over here. That's like the consensus report, but if we look in detail at all different models of the possible paths of this hurricane, looks like there's a map, so. Then we actually see that there is one path that actually goes farther north, kind of maintains that northern migration, and then veers to the north. So most of them put it further to the west, but just in case that this one is the right one, if there's something that's accounting for the other ones or not, we probably want to stay on the safe side and expect it might come as close as this coming up through here. All right, so we'll still wait and see what happens there. But that's what we know right now. So that's our hurricane thoughts. I think everyone should be getting ready, especially for the wind, big surf. We'll see if we can get any, if the weather is good enough, we might have some reports of the surf possibly in the morning, see what's going on out there. You got anything to add about the hurricane, John?
I guess it's better to be prepared than not prepared. There's a good chance of it staying to the south and heading straight west. There's also a chance that it could veer more north and more areas get higher winds. So just, treating it like it's a real thing. Do what you can to prepare is important. That's all I can really say about it, but hopefully it doesn't hit us. That's the main thing. There's no lava, there's no volcano to worry about during this hurricane. At the moment, there's no lava shooting out of Fissure 8, so we got a lot of questions about what'll happen when the hurricane and the volcano combine. And I think really it's more about tonight and as the hurricane gets closer, start thinking about how to prepare for a storm. And right now, we haven't even talked about it yet. There's not a lot of lava from Fissure 8 to worry about, and the hurricane's not something that can really set that off. The volcano isn't likely to be influenced by the hurricane very much, so we get a lot of questions referring to that, and so that's one thing I can say about it. So.
Yeah, I think that's useful. Yeah, I think I've heard you say before the main danger from this is really the tree branches,
trees,
right? We have so much vegetation around here that's probably the biggest concern, even with fairly weak winds, especially when you talk about all the vegetation that's died from the sulfur gas around here, right? Including like some of the big albizia trees, our invasive trees that are around here. They're prone to breaking and falling at the slightest breeze. So that's probably one of our bigger concerns now, is something like that actually going on. And one thing that has kind of come up before is people talking about how the warm water might actually influence the hurricane, maybe how warm water might feed this force. And one thing I wanted to kind of recount is that when we feel the lava affecting the water temperatures near the ocean entry, usually that effect goes down at most a foot. Like there's at most a foot of hot water at the top of the ocean, and below that is actually all your regular ocean temperature. So, there's not as much hot water as you might believe out there. So to me, that limits the effect of what might actually happen as far as that water kind of feeding it. And besides that, there's not as much lava going into it as well, so we can expect that to be a fairly minor effect, especially with the center moving farther down.
Maybe to them real quick? I'll point something out.
Yeah, so
if you look at this is, an image of our hurricane, and there's our islands outlined in white. There's the big island. So when you see how big a storm like this really is compared to where the Fissure 8 lava flow and our volcano is, even if it did add heat to the storm is already doing its own thing. It might add some energy when it was right on top of us, but other than that, this has already collected all the heat it needs to be a storm like that way out across the ocean. And the little bit of warm water it might get around the island here is pretty insignificant when you think of how big the whole storm is. So maybe that can be kind of reassuring to people about it. The volcano won't be to blame for the hurricane. It's just what path is it going to take. That's what we need to, be aware of.
For sure, yeah. So yeah, just kind of recap this. This is the NOAA, National Weather Service satellite image with forecast track and probability of sustained winds of certain speed, right? So there is that. Some other effects of the hurricane we can kind of talk about, if we do have any kind of significant winds, then we can probably move a lot of that cinder around. It can kind of blow around. It's not very heavy, but it might kind of spread a lot of dust in the air. Pele's hairs, that kind of thing, might actually kind of get mobilized. And so we'll see, you know, that might be a hazard we don't usually have, because usually stuff has longer to settle, whatever else, you know, it just happens to be kind of fresh and floating up there. So, especially the areas around Leilani, right, where all that stuff is piled up and kind of, who knows which way it might blow if winds actually pick up. But as is currently forecast, we're not supposed to have that strong winds, you know, I mean, I wouldn't expect the winds expected to actually affect that stuff too much. So other effects, maybe the surge, right? So, you know, I'm not sure what the tides are going to be and what the surge is going to do, but like, you know, there was actually, in fact, an image released today from the USGS of the Kapoho area. Let me see if I can find it for you guys here. That shows cracks developing in a vacation lands area. Let me show you guys here. So this is an image released by USGS today, and this is an area of our vacation lands. And what we'd like to point out to you guys is these series of cracks. You can see cracks here, cracks here, cracks here, right? Cracks out here. There's another one over there. All these cracks parallel to the ocean, right? Showing that this new lava land coastline is actually still settling into the ocean. And what we see as a hazard is that the waves might come and start eroding, undercutting some of this area through here and cause it to settle even more. And some of these cracks may actually open up and pieces of this get broken off and slide down there. So that's something that could affect on the coast. Even an area like this in Kapoho, where we think that there's, well, actually, you know, even without any lava flow on the surface, the inside of this area is still all very hot. So when it actually cracks and breaks open, we might have waves coming in and causing small explosions in that area that maybe wouldn't see in this current situation right now. So that's what we got going on. Oh, we got a special guest here, huh?
Oh, hello. Sponsored by Big Wave.
Product.
What's the new update, man?
Yeah, we were just talking about the hurricane and possible hurricane effects on what's going on here at the coast. We talked a little bit about how the water, even though it's a little bit hot, it's not that much of it and not that deep. So maybe not, you know, a storm is so big, maybe it doesn't affect it so much. Now we're talking about the cracks over by Kapoho Delta. Did you see this USGS picture?
Yeah.
Right, with all these cracks.
There's still heat under that.
Yeah, and there's plenty of heat in there, right? In fact, Ikaika and John saw a big flow coming out of this similar area around here.
Just near there.
Just yesterday, was it?
Yep.
Yesterday morning. So we know for sure there's lava inside of that thing that's been leaking out even recently. So that's a risk there. And of course, down by Pohoiki, a Halanui area where the lava is actually still leaking out into the ocean, that risk exists also, not so much of the cracking and collapsing, but of the explosions because of the high surf, you know. So that could be something that's gonna happen over there. Of course, you know, don't expect anyone to be out sailing down there. So that's probably not going to be a hazard to anyone of the on the ocean. Yeah.
Some of these things might occur, but it's like if you probably shouldn't be out there anyway. You know, if you were nearby, it would be an issue. And I know people are interested in seeing what'll happen and change at the coast when the storm surge comes in, but it's not the kind of thing that anybody worried about the storm needs to be thinking about this. It's more about take care of your own place, be ready for the storm, be ready for tree branches if it gets windy, you know.
Right.
But we, geologically, we probably will see the coast change in the storm surge, but it's not like a safety hazard to worry about.
Oh,
Lost our
your
front
light.
lighting.
Wow, that's how she looked.
Yeah. All right, maybe we can get some.
Scoot back over to the tape.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh wait, I have that.
We could probably turn ourselves around facing that way now, huh?
Right, yeah.
Okay, guys, give us a second. We had a little studio change. There we go. That might be a little better, huh? I'm gonna readjust for where the light is now. All right, that'll work. Just a second, you guys. Readjust our position here. All right.
Look, they can see you.
Yes,
Still
here we are. All right, that's a little better, yeah? So, okay. That's, I think that, have we covered storm effects, basically? What else has come up as far as questions for storms? I'm trying to remember if there's anything else. I think we, you know, if it comes up, we can kind of readdress it at that point. I guess the other concern is the winds. The fact that that big brush fire in Mauna Loa is being fanned by the winds that have been picking up today. In fact, that brush fire has grown to over 2,000 acres, which is terrible. It's terrible. The area of Kīpuka is I heard you describe it as a biological gem. You know, tell us more about Kīpuka up there, an area threatened by the fire, and why it's so important for people in Volcano. As you know, I've heard someone say today, I think it was Brad Lewis, mentioned Kīpuka is as important to Volcano residents as Pohoiki is down to Puna residents. So a little more about that, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, Kīpuka is just very, very special spot. There's not a lot of places even within the national park that have true old growth forests. So the Kīpuka has trees that are hundreds of years old, like pre-Western contact trees. All the native birds, Elapaio, Apapane, Iiwi sometimes, Amakihi, the Nene are in there. And as far as the park, I mean, that was one of their very special ecological centers. They're called Special Ecological Area, where there's just a lot of rare plants, rare diversity, and it's kind of one of the only spots where you can see what the ancient forest used to be like. And they've restored an enormous area on the Mauna Loa Strip with koa forest, and you know, it's just, as far as what the park has in it, that's one of the biological centers of diversity for the whole giant Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. So it's a real loss to think of that area or the surrounding area being damaged by the fire, because we're decades into a earnest restoration effort on that mountainside to restore the native forest there, and Kīpuka was one of the centers of diversity. So it's beautiful. Anybody who's been there knows that's one of the really, really beautiful parts of the park. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a place where, you know, through our various different jobs, we've taken people up there and to look at especially rare plants, harder to find native birds. So any kind of birders that we've ever come through here, we almost always take them up there. That's the area we have the most diversity and reliable bird populations. You know, all the specially adapted birds here to Hawaii, right? Most people may know the story of the Galapagos, where, you know, the one kind of bird speciated into, what was it, 16 different kinds, more or less, something like that. I don't remember the numbers quite as well as I used to. Yeah. And you know, in Hawaii, the story is we have a much larger speciation occurring.
More than 50 birds from one type of finch. So that, I mean, forests like Kīpuka are where those stories can still be told, where we still have most of the original community of native birds and plants that can all be seen up there. So a fire through that area has a lot of implications. Like almost anywhere else, it would just be grassland and scrub forest, but that area is some of the really, truly priceless native forest that remains in the park. So it's a really, really sad, and get more details about what it looks like later, I guess.
Yeah, and for those of you guys who are watching from the mainland, you know, it's about 3/4 of Hawaii's native plants and animals are found nowhere else on Earth, right? So like, it's not like there's anywhere else to find these things. That's one of the few spots they actually are. So there's not a whole lot of habitat, and you know, that's what makes us work, especially connected to the volcano area and Mauna Loa in particular. As both John and I are, you know, so impacted emotionally by that particular fire that's going on there. So we thought,
it's a real bummer. It's a bummer right now. We have a few positive things happening, and now this fire on the mountainside is like, I'm still processing that one. It's like,
we're still reeling a little bit from that.
Yeah, it's too big, too fast. Nobody wanted something like this to be happening right now, of course. So try to sort out one issue and then the next. Hopefully the storm will be bringing rain by possibly this evening or tomorrow. There'll be rain on the mountain up a higher elevation on Mauna Loa.
We hope, yeah.
We hope, and then that would hopefully turn the tide in this wildfire. So maybe as one story relates to another, the hurricane might bring the rain to limit the spread of that fire.
Right. First the winds to fan it, and then the rain hopefully to put it out. But in the meantime, we're just gonna roll with the punches as usual, right? So okay, let's turn to our
volcano.
Yeah. Okay. We have a picture of a the fire at some point I can pull up for you guys, but maybe we'll like just pass that by for now because, you know, we're it's, you know, not fun to look at, so at least for us anymore. Yeah, so all right, so let's look at the few images we have today as far as a volcano goes. Get a little closer here to my device, and let me find the few pictures here. Here's a photograph we have taken by USGS this morning of Fissure 8. So we're looking down into the vent here. The exit channel is right here, but it's actually quite a bit higher in elevation than the lower sunken pit now. So now we have one bubbling center right down here. We had a second one kind of on this edge, but I don't quite see it in this photograph. And we actually see another glowing spot right in here. Maybe it's not, doesn't come out as clear in a iPhone screen, but this is actually orange in my photograph right here. You guys can find these on the USGS website today. So it looks like we actually had our original Fissure line was something like through here. There was a little vent in here, and actually the one that we've been calling Mini 8 or the Bay over here, you know, kind of form a line. This is the original Fissure line. It kind of went like this. All right, so we're surprised to see this in a wall of the cone, but you know, there it is. It's an interesting little curiosity that's emerged from this photograph. But basically there's still lava in there, it's still bubbling up. It's not coming up with nearly as much force as before, right? So we're not sure if there's actually any connection from this deeper area into the channel. If there is, it's gonna be very little lava and then fairly weak because there's no pressure pushing it in there. And as a result, this is Fissure 8 up here, and you guys can see this is the lava channel, and the whole surface of it looks to be crusted over by this morning right now. So there's still liquid stuff inside of there, and as recently as yesterday we saw reports of this thing still moving very, very slowly, kind of creeping along. It looks like from this photograph, it's hard to tell in the daytime if this is actually moving or not. There could be still movement coming through here, but it's not very fast if it actually is. So that's kind of what it looks like. One thing that we were looking at earlier, John and I were looking at, is now that we have this level dropped, we can actually see these interesting features on the edge of the channel, right? Here's a normal edge, and look right in there. Look how undercut. We see a little cavern down there at the edge of this thing, right? So you can imagine a little eddy. And now we've been talking about for a while the erosive force of the lava, right? Combined thermal and mechanical erosion together. Actually, like little eddies causing undercut areas like that, or like over here, right? So it helps you realize, you know, when we see people walking close to the edge, you can kind of see this close to the edge. Some of these areas might actually not be that be fairly hazardous to be near, right? You're a little more clear now that the thing is drained away. You get them on both sides. Here's a little collapse. There's a little embayment in there too. Another one there. You guys see these are kind of all over the place. So that's very interesting. What else we got as far as lava flow pictures? Here's one down at Pohoiki area. So this active edge over here is still kind of oozing all the way up to close to the closest spot to the boat ramp over here. As we believe now, there's not a lot of lava kind of moving through into this area. We do know lava is kind of draining down into the area, but it's kind of so spread out that it's not. We don't believe it's really pushing much of the edge. You guys can see, kind of generally speaking, there's some fume coming up from the edge of the ocean intrude, but there's no giant plume like we had before. That leads us to believe that volume is decreasing. It's still being fed by drainage, so like there's still some push by gravity. And we kind of see this kind of a feature right here, which to me looks like a feature that we call tumulus on the old flow field. I'm not sure if that's exactly what it is, but often what happens when these flows are kind of at a point where they've crusted over is they'll actually feed pressure below. The gas is kind of pops out like a little pimple, pushes the rocks above the area like into a little mound, and lava kind of comes out from the inside and flows out in the immediate area. I can't see very well in this photograph, but the fact that this flow is flowing back inland suggests something along those lines, you know, like had actually happened, rather than leaking from the edge or just kind of out from the middle as well.
Right.
So does that seem reasonable?
Yep, I think so. And it's also good to note it's back from the edge, so it's not the edge of the flow front is not pushing out across new ground. It's come up through the crust and erupting on top of itself there. So it's just, you know, another example of that edge has not progressed very farther.
Yeah, and it looks closer than it actually is in this angle, right? Just so you guys, so it's clear.
Yeah.
There's more space here than you can see just because this is like a low angle photograph looking over. So So yeah, let's see if I can miss any questions. We'll look at the thermal photograph here shortly. Let's see. Let's just go to the thermal image next, huh?
Yeah, thermal image is
Let's
good.
go to thermal image.
Good
So,
old thermal image. Wish we had you sooner.
all right, this is the thermal image from our last update. Just kind of recap where we were before our newest one. So you can see lava is still filling the channel. So let's give you guys a date. August 3rd. We believe this is a typo. It says probably 12:30 p.m. They probably didn't fly in the middle of the night. So you guys can ignore that. I think I mentioned AM last time, but it's actually a PM, we believe. So lava channel is all the way full. This was actually just after a surge. So we see the recent spillover areas up here. We see the spillovers up in the Shipwreck Bay or Lava Berg Marina, or whatever you guys want to call it, you know.
The bends.
By the bend, yeah, and we see the flow kind of coming down, leaking down to the south around the west side of Pukapoho, which is here. We see our little rock that shows us level flow being totally spread out on all sides, but the volume of this flow kind of comes out. You guys can see the flow is spreading out all the way to the east this far, all the way to the west this far. So that's the whole edge. The whole thing is being fed by this flow, and this is relevant because the tube structure today is probably likely the same one as was active in this photograph. And so even though the big spreading front of the surge is about this far, there's still tubes going underneath here and feeding lava to the entry, the edge here and here and here that kind of go underneath here. You can't really see it under this dark area because the crust is too thick, more than likely. Right? So, anything to add about this, John?
Nope, that's, I agree, I concur.
All right, let's see if I can, okay, so here we go. We'll go back and forth flip. You guys can see how much dimmer they did it. That might not necessarily mean anything besides the scale they use, but kind of gives us an idea of the change and cool down in a flow. I'm doing one more time here. There you guys go. So
Interesting.
So you guys can, let's look a little more detail. Let's go from the bottom up maybe. So still lava. So okay, first of the date and time. 6 a.m. yesterday is when this was taken. So by today, we showed you guys the photographs today of it's a little cooler than this, but here you guys can see that edge closest to Pohoiki is the one active over here. You see there's an active line kind of just inland right there. That's likely where that flow we just showed you guys came from, is that area right in there. But a lot of heat all on the coast, all through here. So the tubes are still active, possibly like through there, or possibly through here. Somewhere in the area, this might be the edge here, the left edge, and this might be the right edge over here, possibly. And you can see still hot ground all the way to here on the east edge, and look, there's
that was the overplating.
right, yeah. So let's look at this separately. Let's just consider the edge right here, right? This is something different. So here's the edge of this west of Pukapoho flow right there. So there was still a lot of heat draining from that bend area, kind of feeding into this big fat zone, but you can kind of see it's mostly building up all through here in this upper part of the flow field. And some is probably leaking through to Pohoiki still. And we've mentioned before that this leaking and dribbling may go on for a couple weeks. That's what we saw in Kapoho once that thing kind of cut off. So that kind of explains this little part of it right here. But we also described how there was enough lava to push back through the lava tube. And in this image here, let me zoom in. It's a little more clear that there is no surface flow connecting this patch of hot lava to that patch of hot lava. So it really did push back through the tube and then seeped out the side over here. This flow didn't get all the way to the road. It came really close before it stalled out. Possibly because it was some of the stickier stuff still cooling in there for the last maybe 3 weeks or so. Was it 2 weeks? 2.5 weeks? I forget exactly.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks. It's been a while.
But it leaked out, like it's not that lobe there, a little bit over here, and a lot of it kind of wrapped back into the channel over here. And this is always on a surface at this eastern bend. But we do believe that lava either moved back through the system or pushed back into here and pushed the stuff that's going inside back out, because this tube actually leads down to, oh, we gotta move that map over. Thanks, John. It leads down all the way to this flow that's reactivated over in Kapoho. That's more or less vacation land, yeah?
Yep. And when we compare it looks like it's a little south of where vacation land was,
A little to the south,
but
yeah.
just by it there. And so, I don't know, I'm pretty confident, the lava took this journey to get over to this entry rather than over here, because when you compare the thermal images, these features haven't changed on the surface here, and it doesn't look like this lobe was traveling on top, overplating. and it looks more likely that it found the old path that was underneath all that crust out to here as a separate flow. It's hard to judge because you can see there's not much indication on the surface of any heat, but this is a really separate breakout from everything else that was happening south of here. And we noticed that on the boat, how far apart they were. So it looks like this lava was traveling over the surface, real slow as an flow, but over here it actually pushed under and emerged again somewhere as an flow in here.
It just shows how hot and gooey it is underneath that whole area, like all the way to here where they didn't actually do the scan, which is probably still hot also. So actually for the first time we have lava flowing around both sides of Pu'ukapoho. There's lava flowing down the west side of it and the east side. Not very fast on both sides, but kind of oozing on both sides of it. And for all of us Pohoiki fans, you know, any lava that goes away from Pohoiki, even in this direction, that's great. As much as possible that way and as little as possible this way.
Yeah.
So we had a question, John. How high is lava at the coast? What do you just estimate the height of the flow is?
How
from
high
the ocean?
at the coast? Well, right by Pohoiki, right at the shore, it was maybe 15 to 20 feet high, right there at the shore, right next to the boat. And further inland over here, it looked higher than the trees, so we're talking 30 or 40 feet high. All along this other part along here, it's higher than that. You know, it's 30 or 40 or 40 or more all along this coast. And it's amazing being out there and just realizing there's black sand beaches and gravel bars all the way with lava on top of them. And so it's just amazing looking coastline, but then you realize how much of it is probably going to continue to settle and collapse. So it's not going to stay looking the way we're seeing it when it formed, you know, but in most places, like at the very southern tip by Pohoiki, it's shorter, it's 15 or 20 feet high. Inland, it's definitely higher than that. And most of the coast, it's over 30, over 40 feet high along most of the coast. And you can see a little further inland, there are places where it's much deeper than that. So the scale is like surprising every time I get a new view of it. I know, that's all I can describe of it.
All right, and we have some little contribution by Les Pearson, Hawaii Tracker here. Thanks, Les. He says in the middle of Kapoho Bay, lava is 60 meters elevation from the LiDAR data.
From above water? 60 meters elevated?
Yeah.
Wow. That's really high. So how high is 60 meters for our viewers at home?
Oh, it's about
180, 90. Wow.
Close to 200 feet, huh?
Close to 200 feet elevated. That just, it shows you the rude fact of the lava. It changes low ground into high ground. And most of that area is just unrecognizable if you went to walk there because, you know, we have over 100 feet, close to 200 feet elevated above the ocean, where it used to be at sea level. It's absolutely amazing how much rock has been produced in the past few months down there at the ocean. It's incredible.
If I'm correct, from what I remember Les telling you earlier, I think it's about the same elevation at Green Lake, right? So like the area that used to be that sunken pit in the ground is now substantially above sea level.
That's amazing. And you know, I've been saying with conversations with Dane DuPont a lot of times that from Green Mountain, the Pu'ukapoho, on out to the coast, that area was very flat, and that was the portion of our lava flow that was acting like a river delta, where it spreads out and fans out and deposits sediment. So from Green Mountain out to the coast, it's been depositing layer after layer of all this rock building out the coastline there. So it's a huge amount of rock is all it comes back to. It's amazing. It's hard to even imagine.
Yeah, so that's the answer to that question. Let's see, we got another question that came in. Why are some flows come out and other times go hoi hoi? So you wanna
yeah, I'll talk a little bit about it. So, well, the Pohoihoi thing is confusing to a lot of people, and there are a lot of like important clues, especially for this eruption, whether the lava is or Pohoihoi. But in general, the lava that has come out of the channel, making a new flow over the surface, has been a'a. It takes the form of a'a. And it's only smaller spillovers near the fast river channel have spilled over the brim, and they've cooled in the form of pohoihoi. Yeah? But as Philip and I were talking earlier, it's kind of better to call the lava lava and call the rocks pohoihoi and a'a. It doesn't really have one form or the other until it's fully cooled. And it's a very, very like complicated difference. Chemically, all the lava is the same stuff. It has to do with how it cools, and most of that cooling process is already done by the time the lava is coming out of the ground. It's actually been cooling while it's been inside of the volcano. And so most of the lava coming out for this eruption, all of it, actually has been a'a, technically. And so by the time you spread it out and let it finish cooling, it takes the form of a rocky a'a flow. And so we haven't really seen any pohoihoi flows in terms of the type of flows we saw from Pu'uo'o there. The pohoihoi works its way down a little at a time, it inflates and then goes a little further and consistently cools in the ropey pohoihoi texture. And there's really subtle differences in cooling for that. And so far, lava takes the form of a'a mostly. And if one of the things the geologists mentioned is if we see a change to pohoihoi flows, that would indicate we're getting some gassier, fresher lava. And that could indicate a lot of different things, but so far it's been So
yeah.
I covered a few different ideas. I bet Philip can clarify some of that.
Well, I mean, I'll add a couple of things. Yeah, so I mean, I think you're right on. Like, when a flow is a little more gassy, that's one way to think of it. When it's a little more gassy and the gas kind of stays in the lava rather than getting shot out of there, you're more likely to get pohoihoi. So I would actually say that you might argue that during our surges, when we had it seemed like gassier lava coming through, that we might have actually had pohoihoi lava coming in. So our spillovers actually might have been, more pohoihoi because they were more gassy, right? When we had lava coming out of the ground from Fissure 8 the second time, when we saw lava arriving and it was a little more gassy, maybe it was also pohoihoi for some reason, the actual gas in the flow can change depending on how the thing is basically burping, right? So the same eruption can produce one river of lava that begins as pohoihoi, turns into a'a, turns back into pohoihoi, turns back into a'a, just based on changing conditions at the vent. So it's really like a spectrum between them, right? It's not like one or the other kind of deal. It's like which end are you closer to based on what kind of conditions do you have.
Right.
And generally speaking, it's easier to get a'a than pohoihoi because a'a represents a cooler texture, less gas, and you always usually lose gas and usually lose heat. So more often than not, if you mix your lava with anything old lava underground, if you have gas coming out more, if you have an open channel of lava 8 miles long and things bubbling all the way down, you're going to lose gas also. So all those things point towards a'a lava as your most likely ending result. You kind of have to establish a pohoihoi system like Pu'uo'o did over time, right? Even the first 3 years of Pu'uo'o were all a'a flows, in fact, before it actually switched over to Kupainaha, Lava Lake. Then that's when we really had a pohoihoi from that situation from the lava shield there.
Right.
So
we haven't seen that transition yet.
Okay, so hold on, we have a little correction here from Les. It's 60 feet, not 60 meters at Kapoho. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that makes better sense.
That's still really tall.
But in places it could be hundreds of feet tall depending on the slope of the original hill. But 60 feet above sea level is a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think the Green Lake area might have been 60 meters. We'll have to go back and check on that for you guys. And as we process all the LiDAR data that's come out, Les has been taking the lead on that, and it's very computing intensive. So at some point we'll have something cool to show you guys, but you guys might have to wait a little while for that. So that is the story on pohoihoi. We can cover more and more later on.
And it's a subtle thing, the difference between a'a and pohoihoi. It's more of a spectrum. There's a lot of details involved, so And we haven't seen the transition to Pohoiki flows yet with this eruption. Not much, other than maybe during the surges. So just to kind of summarize the discussion.
Right. Right. So, if we turn back to the thermal map, there's a little more to look at here. So we kind of covered this coastal area through here. We covered the overflows at the Four Corners area. And in fact, just to kind of point out, I expressed some concern for the burial ground. That's all still intact. There is no impact there. This area overflows over here is kind of still cooling off, but maybe what we should look at is the actual channel itself. You guys can see that even though it leaks out from here, it's clearly tubed over between here and back in here. You guys can see that this branch over here is the one. Oh, hold on, I'm wrong. So, okay. This is, all right, so we actually have the abandoned branch of the braid is actually coming through here. You can see that area is still quite cool. And the active branch through here is crusted over, but still showing hot in this image. There's some little areas where you can see it's breaking out from the crust, maybe flowing a little more through here. The main channel goes off apparently on this side. Although we could easily have a tube going through here also and kind of going underneath. It's hard to see what's happening right in this area right through here. Farther up, we can see still some kind of grayish crust area, and then coming right through here, we start seeing a little bit, well, not quite there. It looks a little different on my phone, but right back up in here, we start seeing little brighter spots. So through here, it doesn't appear to be quite as crusted over. There's more heat escaping. This is maybe moving slightly from this image yesterday morning, remember? So by this morning, maybe it all crusted over an area down here where we're pointing out the photograph that USGS released. That's from right in here. You guys can see in this photograph, it's still, or in this thermal, it's still quite a bit of heat coming out of there. So there it is. Let's go back to the area of Fissure 8. And there is our little pond of lava right in there. It's kind of feeding the thing. So that's the hotter area right in there. So there it is. And let me go back through the questions here. So so we have to see them talk about the gases. I see some talk about pu'o'o. Talk about the hurricane. The hurricane we covered earlier on in our broadcast, so I'm going to leave it at that. Maybe we'll revisit it at the end, but we'll leave that for later. Earthquakes. Okay, so this one's maybe we'll talk about this first, one at the very end. How are people feeling now that earthquakes have stopped? Is there tension about future events? I would say basically yes. You know, everyone is I think excited and hoping that everything is all the way over, and we're having to kind of caution for some time to pass because we've had pauses in the lower East Rift zone up to 15 days before, right? Recently, you know, documented eruptions, possibly longer ones than that. I think USGS is saying something like that. You know, maybe at least 2 weeks. We got to wait and see. You know, I might say that maybe within a week we might see some signs of what's actually happening, right? We'll look at the tilt signal here shortly, but we might see changes in tilt, we might see changes in the gas emissions and the earthquakes, and might give us more of a hint within about a week or so of which way this thing is pointing. We might not actually know until 2 weeks, possibly a little longer, you know, where it's actually all going to lead. But we'll have some hints before that, so we'll actually look at that as the week goes on. We'll still be here updating you guys on those changes that are happening up there, and we can talk about that here shortly as well.
In the meantime, it's okay to enjoy this change while it's here. You know, we have to watch and see what the signals mean. But for right now, the people up there are not having earthquakes. They get to rest, and so we got to be thankful for that right now. You know, it could change, but we really don't know what's going to happen next. So right now, we just need to appreciate that there's less lava and there's no shaking. And while that maintains, we'll keep trying to get more information about what could be happening, but that's the moment we're in right now, and that's good because now people can rest. So we'll focus on that right now.
Yeah. So you guys can leave the worrying to us. You know, try to enjoy your break. Hopefully it's a long break, but if it's not, then you know we'll let you guys know when something changes. So that's kind of I mean, you know, I'm gonna keep it in the back of your mind for sure, but you know, now is your chance to catch up on your sleep if you're living in volcano or whatever else you guys need to do. So, okay. So another question that there is status of housing for rent dwellers. So I'm not sure about the rent dwellers. I did ask about the people at the shelter earlier tonight from someone who's in contact over there. They told me that just about everybody has moved out of the parking lot.
Okay.
So some people were scrambling to do so, and it's not clear exactly where everyone went. But the doors of the community center and the senior center are all locked earlier today. So they apparently have moved everyone out of there. And I believe that there is no one out in the parking lot anymore, the last I heard. Where they've gone exactly, I couldn't account for everybody.
Interesting.
But I did kind of try to figure out about that, and you know, as far as I know, there is no one in tents over there right now anymore anyways, and in fact, those places are probably closed. So we'll see how it actually comes about. Let me come back here through the questions and see what else we might have again. So let's see. People want some opinions about civil defense and Ryan's post. Maybe we can do that a little bit later. Les mentions that Green Lake is covered in 36 meters of new lava. So that is about 100 feet.
Something feet. 100.
So at Green Lake, it's about about Green Lake or so.
That's amazing.
So okay, and then here's another one that said, "Are the Highway 130 metal plates getting hotter?" Maybe we can talk about Pu'u'o now and the gases, you know, and kind of turn it out a little bit.
Yep, it's all
so
related.
Yeah, let's look at the plates. I got the image up here on an iPad. Let me pull it up.
And then related to the gas at Pu'u'o and stuff. That's
right. All right, so here is our plate image that's live right now, and we have
normal.
Yeah, normal. Average 125, max 157. Definitely did go up the last few days, but it seems to have gone down again now. And there is still a lot of gas coming out of Pu'u'o, although not as much as before, right? You said you heard that report today?
Yeah, USGS reported over or around 1,000 tons of sulfur dioxide a day were coming out of Pu'u'o. That was the recording on Friday, and they said it's less than that over the past couple days. So they're keeping track of it, and Philip can tell you what that might relate to. The gas was really high, and it's come down over just a couple days. It's coming back down, so that means something.
Yes, I mean, I thought it would actually take longer than that, right? You know, I talked about, was it yesterday? I think I talked about how we imagine there being bubbles of gas within that plumbing system, and those the big bubbles maybe were kind of kept in place by the flow and weren't able to kind of escape. And once the flow level would drop down, then it maybe had a room and space to a pathway to move uphill away from the eruption site, and the natural chimney is Pu'u'o, and maybe that's why the gases came out there. So there's kind of two sources of gas. You know, one is the actual flow in the rift zone that's still down there and cooling and degassing right now. So there's going to be some amount of gas coming out of the fissures. If this is all over already, which we don't know, but if it was, then there will still be gases coming out of the Fissure 8 and Pu'u'o for a while yet of SO2 at probably lower levels than we've seen recently. But some amount will come out for a long time because there's a whole lot of lava down there that didn't come out of the ground. I've used the champagne bottle analogy before, right? When you pop your champagne bottle, all the gas throws all the liquid out. There's always some champagne left in a bottle that's flat. It doesn't all come out. There's always going to be some lava left underground that's kind of flat, but still some amount of gas that comes out is going to be detectable by us, and we smell it really well. So we'll be able to actually see SO2 for a while, you know, even if it's in the lower amounts coming out of the fissures for a while. But there was actually like a much bigger amount on Friday. What's that, 3 days ago? No, 5 days ago? 5 days ago.
Time flies.
So that could have actually been a spike that we saw, like the bubbles of gas kind of moving up and out and kind of basically burping out. And then those big bubbles have been vented. And now we have steady gas coming out of the lava still, but no big bubbles left to burp out anymore. So if that's true, then that spike is basically over and it's passed, and that kind of supports the theory. Getting back to the plates, between up here and Pu'u'o is where the plates are, so all that gas rising through the system would leak out some of those cracks. You would not be surprised to hear about higher temperatures during that same era of the higher gas emissions. I wouldn't be surprised to hear of more sulfur dioxide smell in those cracks between here, Leilani, and Pu'u'o, so in that 130 area, Black Sands area. People, I haven't heard any reports in person, but if I hear one, I won't be surprised.
Oh, I've heard some
you
personal reports. I collect personal reports, and I can't think of them too scientifically other than like, oh, that's a good note to remember. But a few people that I know personally have remarked that the smell has been really strong over the cracks, and it might go together with this theory, you know, that the gas is escaping the lava, it's stored underground in pockets under pressure, and when it moves, it's carrying the heat of the lava with it. So if we had a big gas movement moving through the rift system and output, that would have transferred a lot of that heat, and it might have been noticeable on the surface at any of these fissures. So it might all go together. We've got a working theory about it anyway. So.
Yeah, so awesome. Thanks for that. And that's just a little recap of our theory of what the gas is and how, you know, how it ties ku'o and heat and smell at the plates and how it went through the area. And correspondingly, we believe a decrease in the output of gas from Fissure 8, actually a decrease in gas across the board, because usually the amount of lava that comes out is greater than the amount of gas that comes out, so a lot less lava means a lot less gas. And in fact, we've had some reports of some beautiful sunsets in Kona for the first time in a while. They actually can see the sun and not the haze from all the fog that's been blowing over there. There's a massive amount of gas coming out. So yeah, that's the kind of gas, like story of the gas, we believe. We also discussed how we might see some signals of the gas moving through the rift zone or other areas, kind of gas venting earthquake seismic signals. Yeah, maybe I can show you guys some of those. Yeah, the tremors. Yeah, the harmonic tremor is actually what it's called. Let me find my plot here. That's not it. So this station here, a seismic station, is within the Kīlauea Puna Reserve, and now I'm showing you guys a 48-hour plot. And so time starts up here, kind of goes across that way, then goes on the next line, goes across that way, so you guys can kind of see that much is like 1 hour. I'm sorry, what we got here? It's actually showing an hour and a half between these markers on the side. A little closer for you guys to see. Alright, so this is actually 2 days of data here, and you guys maybe can see little earthquakes on top of all of this. And then here is our harmonic tremor, the darker lines. Like, so more gas is coming out there, then a little bit less, then a lot less, and then a little bit more. And you guys can see there's interesting patterns of, you know, gas coming out and almost like in bursts, right? Like, you know, there's a, what's in this case, like almost a 24-hour burst of gas coming out more here, and then earlier it might have been like a 6-hour burst, something like that. So you guys can kind of see some variations on how the gas comes out there. So that's not just down here at the rift zone. We actually have similar patterns at the summit too. So here's a summit plot of the last 48 hours also, and you can kind of see some similar gas venting effects. So those of you guys who have been watching the webcams and seeing, oh, now there's more steam coming out, now there's less steam coming out, more steam coming out, it may well correspond to these signals that we see through here. So that's one thing we're starting to watch now, that we think gas is maybe the biggest story happening today. How the gas is moving around and how it's moving things around, and maybe even causing the lava to keep bubbling up. We'll have to kind of talk about that a little more here shortly. But let's turn to our tilt, perhaps. Is it time for the tilt?
Time for tilt.
Time for tilt. Where is my tilt? Is that it? Yeah, there's my tilt. All right, let's make sure we're fresh. And okay, so here's our tilt at the summit at the last 2 days. You guys can see a little bit of variation. The first thing I'm going to point out, once again, is a scale. Maximum of 2, minimum of -1.5. That's a 3.5 scale, 3.5 microradian range right there, right? Compared to our image for the last week, which shows our collapse pattern. Here we're looking at 120 to -40, 160 microradian range right here, right? So it's a much bigger scale. At this scale, what we're looking at now looks like a flat line, right? So compared to before, flat line, right? If you zoom in a whole bunch right in here, then it looks like this, all right? So overall it's decreasing, but it's going through some oscillation, decreasing more, then slowing down, actually increasing a little bit, then decreasing, right? So deflating, a little inflation, a little deflation, right? We've seen like 3 of these little humps now coming down as the thing is depressurizing.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
The other thing that might mean something is that you can see the wiggle, the vibration going on has gotten a little higher amplitude. It's wiggling a little more at this end than it was over here. So just a little change in the signal. It's hard to say what that means though. But it's more vibration anyway.
Yeah, so that could correspond. Yeah, we're not curious. You know, usually a harmonic tremor corresponds to some fluid moving, you know, gas or lava almost all the time. And since we don't see the lava at the surface, you know, by here down in Lower East Rift Zone, we're basically inferring that's probably gas. At the summit, it's not quite so clear if that's lava or gas moving underground, what's going on exactly there. But let's focus on Pu'o'o, because that's part of the story as well. Pu'o'o has a similar, generally a decreasing trend, with a couple of these little oscillations also, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but generally going down, right? And once again, the scale is much smaller, right? We're going from 0.8 to minus 0.8, right? So it's even a little less than up here.
Tiny changes right now.
These are tiny changes for sure. But one thing that's really interesting, let's look at these together, is that when we kind of have more or less the same shape, but when this one is curved down, that one's curved up, and when this one's curved up, that one's curved down, and kind of vice versa. So that actually correlates fairly well going across there, but it's kind of the opposite effect, right? So one working theory of this, and these are very small amounts, just to kind of remind you guys, but one possibility is that lava is still coming into the volcano from below, and sometimes it's able to actually start pressurizing it a little bit within a magma chamber, but then whatever is sealing it in to allow pressure to build is not staying sealed, and is then able to release that pressure towards the East Rift Zone. And that might be what's actually feeding eruptions still right now, is that kind of low-level input from below the summit, which we have to kind of keep an eye on, you know, to see how big an effect that actually is. But in this particular case, you guys can see that when this is slowing down more, like lava's leaving the summit faster, then the East Rift Zone is not showing deflation quite as fast. And when it starts not going to the Rift Zone, let's say, for example, if that's our theory, and staying in the summit, then the Rift Zone actually deflates even faster right through there. Right, so that kind of pattern continues off and on. That might lead you to believe that there might be some connection, something blocking the summit magma chamber connection to the Rift Zone, but not very well, where it pushes barely, clears away, and then kind of keeps doing that. So we'll have to kind of see where that takes us, because we're not really sure about that relationship. One thing that I've been kind of speculating about is, you know, with 1,500 feet of collapse up at the summit, at the surface, you know, it probably means a lot of stuff working its way down into the conduit, and that might be the source of some blockage, whether it's some block itself or the pressure of the block, or, you know, that's not quite clear. I imagine there's really kind of, the way I think of it, is there kind of three general zones of rocks kind of in a magma chamber. Like there's the most fluid rock that can move in and out fairly easily. There's probably a gooey layer around that that's not moving as much, but is actually, you know, still partially molten, you know, that kind of is the boundary between that gooey layer and then the third part being the rocks that are solid all surrounding all of that. So when you have all that collapse, you're collapsing not just the rocks at the surface, but all that stuff underneath there, all that gooey stuff is probably able to move a little more than like a solid rock could. So when you collapse all that stuff down into that conduit, it's possible that some of it works its way down. And, you know, I've used an analogy the last couple of days that seems to work. People haven't objected to it yet, of the pipe and the gravel, right? So I imagine like having like you know, 3-inch water pipe kind of thing, and you might pour a bunch of gravel over top of that, and maybe some gravel goes down in that pipe, but at some point you have enough big blocks that kind of hold and block the opening to that pipe. You can kind of actually keep some airspace in there, unless you take that pipe and start shaking it every day and wiggling it all the time. And then when that happens, all that rock's going to start wiggling its way down in the conduit, and that's what we've had with all these earthquakes, is a constant shaking in that conduit. So anything that could wiggle down into that hole probably has, because we've had all the shaking vibrations to cause it to happen.
Right.
Not that it would necessarily, but if it could, then it probably has happened, you know, right, depending on the shape of that thing, the geometry, and whether it's the actual blocks themselves or the gooey stuff, whatever else. There's a pretty good chance that something down there is actually changing geometry that might change the way that lava works its way from the summit into the Rift Zone. We don't have no idea what it looks like in there, but that seems in the realm of possibility.
It stands to reason. Yeah, we had all these high energy events, the 5-point whatever, earthquakes over and over again, as well as all the small earthquakes. And that's the analogy Phil's making, is that it's that shaking and oscillation that helps it settle, helps the smaller empty spaces be filled, and maybe that's created some kind of blockage or some kind of limitation as far as the draining of the lava out at the summit. So just summarizing what you're saying.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's always helps to hear different. Yeah, and kind of big picture, we think now that given the volume of lava that came out of Fissure 8, given the volume of the collapse at the summit, that are fairly close in magnitude, that most likely most of this eruption so far has been driven by collapse of the summit. And now that the earthquakes have stopped, we kind of imply that that source of lava that was the summit magma chamber, the shallow one, is basically empty now, or totally gone. That chamber probably doesn't exist in the way it did before. So that source of lava is basically depleted. But there's another source of lava, which is lava coming into the volcano from below, which up to now hasn't been as important because there was so much lava coming out from the summit that tinier amount maybe wasn't even visible or noticeable. Now it served an important role in the kind of beginning of this eruption off, because for the last 10 years we had buildup of pressure that resulted in Pu'o'o lava lake rising in the crater floor, eruptions out of the flank of Pu'o'o several times in 2011, rising lava lake for the last several years, and spilling over the lava lake twice in the last year, right? So all those were signs of pressure from this long-term, slower, steady influx of lava into the summit. And that pressure is what I believe was a big part of causing that 6.9 earthquake, which actually unzipped the rift zone from Pu'o'o down to Leilani. So without that long buildup of pressure from that long-term lower source of lava, we wouldn't have the opening that caused it to happen. And that opening then caused the draining of the summit, so it kind of all relates. But since the summit's been draining, that amount hasn't contributed in nearly the amount of volume as what was draining from the summit. Now that the summit's basically exhausted, we now have that as becoming a much more important part of our equation now. And that's the big question, is how much is coming down from below now, and can that replace or keep open the plumbing system that's been established by the previous 3 months? And there's really no way to know. We each have our own gut feeling of yes or no, or this or that, but we just have no way to know that. And that's what we're basically watching for the next week, especially, is that connection open? Is it open enough? Is it going to be pressurizing the summit? Is it leaking into the rift zone? That's what we're really looking for to really tell if this thing is coming to a quick end, to a long, slow end, to any end at all, or a long-term hazard that we're going to deal with for more time than that.
And let's talk about those scenarios. So the first thing is we need some more time to look at the signals before we can be sure of those ideas. But what sort of things might Philip and I be looking for? Well, if the summit is exhausted, that is the one side of the theory. If there's not going to be any more of this crazy, vigorous draining of the summit coming out through Fissure 8, then we'll be looking to see this other signal coming in of that slow deflation, inflation pumping through the system like it did for Pu'uo'o. If the summit is not exhausted, if it can still drain further, then we might see a pickup in small earthquakes leading to another collapse event like we were seeing before. But it's too early to know because we're not seeing any of those signals at the moment. But we are seeing something, so... Yeah,
we're seeing hints of something that we're still guessing at the full shape of it because we only see the beginning of it.
We couldn't see this pattern before. While the summit was draining, that was masking everything else. And now, maybe if that has reached its bottom for this event, then we'll see this other pattern develop for us. But at the moment, we can't be too sure until we let more time pass to see if a pattern develops.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's kind of why we keep saying it's going to be, I keep saying about a week.
Yeah.
USGS says about 2 weeks, and I kind of think that
the way we work, we'll notice something in a week. Most likely. We'll see.
Yeah, so we'll report the changes that we see. Maybe we won't know what they mean exactly, but that's what we're looking for, and I'm sure USGS is looking for the same thing also. But they don't often jump to conclusions. Perhaps we'll put it that way, give them the benefit of the doubt, like we do. We like to jump to conclusions sometimes.
Right, well, I wouldn't say Philip is jumping to conclusions. He's putting together the evidence and trying to come up with the best fit theory that fits what we're seeing so far. And so here's the other thing we talked about today. We don't currently have any information to suggest that it hasn't stopped, that it isn't reaching the end of this. You know, there's no new signal saying like it's about to keep draining or Fissure 8 is about to turn on again. You know, we don't have information that says it's gonna keep going. So we might as well enjoy this moment where there's this lull and maybe we are really getting close to the end of it. It's okay to be hopeful about those things, you know, because we don't have any contradictory information at the moment. So.
Yeah, and that's life on a volcano, right? You know, we've kind of been living in blessed times recently where we haven't had to deal with this, like, you know, year to year, but like that's life on a volcano is, you know, you basically go through areas of more eruption and then areas of less eruption.
And we have less eruption right now.
And right now it's less eruption. For however long it lasts, it's less eruption. That's all that matters, right? But, you know, at some point there'll be more eruption. We know that. We're not going to try to get you guys all down about that now, but like, you know where we live now, right? That's basically it. So, that maybe covers the big picture of the summit. You know, we're basically still waiting on that. But you know, what we could have seen was a big inflation signal. We haven't seen that, so that we know that, you know, like there wasn't some huge source from below feeding the whole thing and it's still going, right? Whatever the big source was seems to have passed. There might still be our small source, and it may be small enough because, you know, Pohoiki was a relatively the same size, small quote unquote source.
Right.
At least in its later years, not so much the beginning years, and that's kind of why we're withholding the conclusion until we know more about that.
Right,
Yeah.
and in the coming week, if we see something like inflation, then we'll definitely be talking about what that could mean. But at the moment, that's not what we're seeing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I think, you know, within a week we can tell you guys a little more or something without having to wait the full 2 weeks or the full 3 weeks. We'll have some idea.
Yeah.
Which way it's pointing. It's pointing towards more, it's pointing towards less. It's like really not clear. We'll be able to tell you something at least at that point. Mm-hmm. So let me take a moment here to scroll through some questions. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Sometimes we can't really get too distracted by what you guys are saying to lose our train of thought, but let me go through here and see if there's something else. How many miles is Fissure 8 from Kīlauea Mountain Pool? I'm not sure. Do you know?
It's more than 26. 26 miles sticks out for some reason. I think 26 miles.
I don't think it's quite that far. Because I remember, I think it was maybe 9 miles from Kīlauea Mountain Pool.
It's more than that, isn't it?
So maybe it's a crow flies, huh?
It's around 15 from Pohoiki to Kīlauea Mountain, if I remember correctly. Well, we might need to check a map. We'll get our map people on it. Get the line along the rift zone is different than straight line distance.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up and maybe answer that in the comments later on.
Yeah, we'll get that number.
So let's see. We haven't talked about, I don't know if you read Danny's post today about the role of civil defense. I mean, we won't have to necessarily get into it in great detail, but
I didn't get into that debate just yet.
Yeah. Well, we can maybe just say that there's a lot of discontent with the way that this eruption management has played out. It seems like civil defense is at the top of the food chain as far as decisions being made. And I think the gist of it is that we want accountability. We want some way to as a public, to hold these decision makers accountable for decisions that are made that we as a community feel maybe weren't the best ones, or maybe weren't as thought out as it could have been, or that kind of thing. So, you know, I think what should come of it is, you know, people should kind of start talking to each other about, you know, where they think this could go, you know, what's a good outcome for this. You know, we've discussed with Ryan a little bit how our local reps, our elected officials, don't seem to be directly involved in many of these decision-making processes, right? You know, our elected official is the mayor, and the mayor appoints a head of civil defense. And, you know, maybe at sometimes there's a little more oversight. I totally understand. Our mayor has been dealing with a lot of health issues, you know, so I'm not gonna lay blame, you know. But, you know, it could be that if we had more people involved in the decision-making process, like our local reps that were elected, along with the mayor who's elected as well, then maybe it would give a little bit more backup, right? You know, a little bit more, you know, like our government has 3 branches for a reason, right? To kind of help keep each other in check, and this is not the system we have set up at the local level and dealing with an emergency like this. And maybe we would like to have some more representation, and maybe there's a way we can achieve that through some legislation or something. I'm not sure exactly. You know, that's where we need to kind of get organized and figure out what's the best path forward, right? Because I think it'd be awesome if we had, you know, the people that are accountable to the voters, right, actually have a voice in there, right, in some way. So I think it's also interesting because, you know, most of our emergencies that civil defense deals with, like hurricanes, for example, or tsunami, or earthquakes, are actually fairly widespread events that usually do impact the whole island and the whole county, right? And this eruption is not one of those. It affects one district more so than any other district. And the people of this one district, because they're not having their voices heard, kind of feel like they're being singled out as being maybe less worthy of having their voices heard in some way, right? That might be the feeling that some people get around here. And maybe it isn't an intentional thing by the civil defense, but maybe there's a way that we could balance out, okay, well, you know, if an eruption is all held, you know, if some event, like eruptions in particular, happen just in one district, maybe there's a way that that district representative can be more involved in a process in particular, something like that. So, I mean, you know, those are just some ideas and kind of just brainstorm ideas out there. I think we need to be a little more organized about it, but that's kind of my particular take. You know, I don't want to speak for anyone else on this, but that is my opinion on how it goes. You know, I think certainly we could have done better than we did today, and we can improve on what we've learned, or, you know, all of our complaints, and actually go towards some positive, constructive action. Which what we need at some point is action, right? Not just complaining, but action to change something about this, so that, you know, if it happens again, right? You know, I've been saying for a while, you know, this may actually, you know, as huge as an event as this is, this may be the first of a series of events that impacts people. Like, most likely Mauna Loa will do that at some point in our lives, impact people, because no matter where it goes, it can affect people, Mauna Loa especially. And, you know, it'd be nice to have these kind of systems in place before something like that happens and it affects, let's say, just South Kona, and then just South Kona feels alienated because eruption is just there, for example, or what have you. Now, you know, it doesn't have to be just Puna, but, you know, any place that is kind of a localized event like that. So, yeah, that's my take on it, basically. You know, and I think, you know, there's gonna have to be something like that. That, you know, we'll have to talk about that. You guys, I encourage you guys to go on Ryan's post and, you know, in the comments, you know, have that debate. You know, we don't want. I think, you know, there have been some people taking this. Maybe a little more personally, you know, trying to turn this into a left-wing versus right-wing thing. But that's not what we're going for. We think that, you know, there's common ground, no matter what your political leaning is, to actually deal with what we see as a community has been an issue regardless of affiliation down here. So it's just kind of put that out there too. So, all right, so here's, Dane has looked it up on the map for us. And we have 24 miles from Halemaumau to Fissure 8. So good job, John. John wins the...
I won something!
John wins the candy jar.
Cool.
And we have 13.5 miles to pool along the along 13. The actual...
I was thinking like 12 to 15. All right.
Oh, well, you're right again.
Respectably close.
So let's see. What else? Let's see what else is on here. We can't address everything, of course, but how much volume at Fissure 8? We have no idea how much volume. That's not that much. We don't know how much is moving underground or whatever else, but
oh, I mean currently?
Currently,
oh,
yeah,
we have no idea. Yeah. No way to measure it right now.
Probability of eruption in Leilani after this flow stops. I'd say, well, depends what time limit you give me, right? If you tell me like at any point in time ever, 100%, it's gonna happen again. it's on a rift zone. So that's every place in the rift zone will erupt again, I guarantee you. That includes, you know, Leilani, it includes, unfortunately, Nanavala, it includes Ocean View, it includes Poho, it includes, you know, Mauna Loa and Pu'o area, and, you know, Upper East Rift Zone, and a Caldera, and a Southwest Rift Zone. All those areas are going to erupt again, for sure.
And as
will,
far as
will it happen in our lives? I don't know about that.
And
but
in the next week, or if lava erupts in Leilani again, like, you can pretty much count on it coming from Fissure 8 if it happens very soon. If this goes on longer, there's a chance of it erupting somewhere else or out of one of the other fissures. But right now, I mean, Fissure 8 is still bubbling a little. That's the place it would come out next if it comes out again.
Yeah,
it'll be Fissure 8.
Nothing's
until something changes.
For sure, yeah. So, I mean, nothing's closed. The spigot. The spigot's still open. It's just like there's no pressure coming out, but the spigot's still open. Right. That's kind of the key there. And you know, as John says, the longer it lasts, the bigger chance something clogs the spigot. But right now, it's still open. Right. So let's see what else I got on here. More civil defense. So let's see. Weather. People are asking about the weather. Maybe you guys can see, you know, my crazy hair is not even blowing in a wind. No wind here. Winds. So there's a little bit going right there, barely in.
The headlights you can see.
Yeah, built-in weather gauge right here. And normally behind me is where the glow would be. There is no glow back there tonight, right? At least not that we can see from here. You have to be a lot closer
That's a big
closer to see that. So we talked about Hector at the beginning of our broadcast, and we're kind of going on for a while, but basically we don't expect to see a huge effect from Volcano on Hector at all. Maybe some minor things that we'll actually, you guys can kind of recap here in a little while. So, guys, keep checking the comments. What else we got? We got anything else? I feel like there's something else that I'm forgetting about at the exact moment, but
can't remember. Just be safe, everyone. Prepare in case the storm hits. That's the thing. Watch out for trees.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, whatever else we had to add, maybe we can... Oh, I know what it was. I was going to check on... I saw a text come in that suggested there might be some photographs available to us. Let me check on that here real quick. You guys bear with us. Let's see if we can load up the information here. It could be that we see some comments, you know, it could be that Fissure 8 may actually be glowing so little that it may be down lower than before. Hold on. So, but we don't have any visual report of that, and we have a lot less photographs of that area right now. So let me see if I can find any pictures here. All right, guys, bear with me. This is what you guys get during a live update where we're trying to pull all the info for you guys all at once. I'm not seeing what I'm looking for right here, right now. So whatever we got here, I'll update you guys with tomorrow. Sorry?
Oh,
no.
Nothing.
Yeah, what I was looking for is Bruce Omori's photographs. I know he had some up from his excursion yesterday, which are totally worth checking out. We have some of those in here. Show you guys just briefly the ones from yesterday. I'm not sure what we have for today, but here is images from Bruce Omori from yesterday. That's how lava looked in the pit yesterday. It's definitely a lot more than it is today. At this point, it's actually almost level with the opening. The what are they calling this? The spill out, a spillover, spillway. That's what they're calling it. The spillway right here. So someone's actually kind of going over the top of that lip and going over there. So the level seems to have risen and fallen at least a little bit between different photographs. So we actually infer that there might be some gas pistoning going on in there. So we'll see. And here is another view of that. There's the spillway, some flow coming out through there. There is Pohoiki. So the flow is still right there. You guys can actually see a little bit of red. Oh, where's my pointer? You guys can see a little bit of red in there. And another one of that. Better be from above, showing lava flow into the ocean near Pohoiki right there. Alright, there is a really slow-moving lava channel. This is where it's leaking out from that corner area west of Pukapoho. You can see it's actually flowing, making this big crust. The crust is moving so slowly, it's breaking apart in one little crack, not even crumpling or anything. This is flow, but not moving very fast down an area right through there. And ocean entry, a lot of lava is probably still flowing underwater in this area through here. It's hard to really see exactly what's going on in there. And here's our fissure line kind of going through. So, okay, I believe we might have some photographs come in. Let me check it out here real quick. Bear with me. All right, so here we go. We got some pictures from Bruce Omori that I believe were taken to this morning, right? So actually here we can see that flow of Pohoiki. There's a little bit of the edges. Here's that flow that we were looking at. Work out from Tumulus possibly. It's actually a lot closer here than we'd imagined. We actually see red lava right here against the trees. Zoom in there, yeah? So that flow has unfortunately been creeping close to the edge of the parking lot right through here. Looks like that's maybe going, hard to tell which way it's actually going. To me, like it might be actually, this is going this way. This is the front of it right here.
It's going that way.
It's going both ways. It's going this way, and it's going this way. It's maybe coming from here and then kind of spreading both ways, kind of moving forward. So there's that. Flow is still kind of creeping. Coming back? You talking to me? Sorry guys, I thought Ikaika was communicating with me from across the parking lot through the dance music. So, alright. Alright, so yeah. So thanks so much, Bruce. Bruce Omori's photographs, extreme exposure, fine art gallery. We'll post these, I am sure, when he's has a chance. So here's a reverse angle. There is Pohoiki, and there is that flow that's concerning us right through there. And that's really the relevant thing. There's still lava kind of leaking out all through here, right all the way over. Oh, so according to Bruce, this picture was taken this evening. So thanks for that, Bruce.
It was taken this evening?
Taken this evening. Bruce just texted and said that.
See, I don't like the looks of this because that's going this way. Coming out from under the crust here and moving that way.
Right,
so
okay.
There could be lava under this crust here.
Right, so it's
coming out the ends. I
So
don't like the way that looks, but the good thing is we know that the system isn't being fed any more lava, so what is coming out at the edge down there is sluggish, it's slow, it only has kind of passive pressure of gravity behind it, so hopefully it won't make much progress before it all cools.
yeah, but so clearly the Pohoiki situation is not over. We still have development there of lava kind of still moving in a direction of the boat ramp. Fortunately, it's on this flatter coastal side, right, and moving kind of through the water. I think that is a little shallow water right there with a little bit of sand piled up maybe over here.
Yeah, sand built up.
So it can fill in this area. Hopefully that goes this way and doesn't kind of cross back up onto the shoreland, or the former shore right there. So okay, let's see what else we got. Another angle of that, close up. So thank you, Bruce, for sharing these pictures from this evening with us tonight. It's like Bruce flew with Paradise Helicopters, so thank you, Paradise Helicopters, and Bruce Omori with Extreme Exposure. And here we go, a picture from tonight of Fissure 8. And you guys can see similar to this morning, a little bit of flow way in the bottom of the thing. This little spot on the side of the cone is fuming quite a bit. Over here also fuming quite a bit. Actually, is maybe two of the side vents to the main vent through here. And you guys can look and see giant hole right there, nothing coming through there, but possibly, an actual little lip right over here separating the spillway from the deeper pit now. Lava was actually up higher yesterday at the edge of this, kind of rising and spilling over the spillway, and clearly it's way below there now. So there is that. Another view. And this is interesting, right? Here's our spillway. And there's a kind of, looks like a collapsed pit right there. It actually looks like a mouth of a lava tube to me, right there with the opening kind of collapsed. And the flow is not going in there at the moment of this photograph, so that's a good sign. So maybe lava is no longer going into the tube system anymore. But you know, who knows, because lava tubes can have multiple levels. There could be another level below this we can't actually see, and clearly the bottom of the ground level before this eruption is way down below here still. This is all built up higher on top of that. So that's what we got. So that's some crucial photographs coming here at the last minute from Bruce.
Those are really nice photos to have. So, as you can see, there's no glow in the sky and very little lava at Fissure 8. So that's the news, and we're sticking to it.
Yeah, and we still need to pray for Pohoiki.
Yeah, pray for Pohoiki. Yeah. Sign-offs.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that flow Pohoiki. We'll keep an eye on the tilt. We'll come back to you guys tomorrow. I'm not sure when exactly. We'll try to work Ikaika in as much as possible, but that doesn't always work out so well for us. We'll see. Sometimes we end up doing these updates like this time of night because of that. So that's why we don't see any glows, because the flow is so deep in there, right? You kind of be almost straight above it, looking down to really see what's going on in there. So yeah, you guys, we're ready for sign off. We'll get back to you guys tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on that fire too. Keep an eye on a hurricane. We've got a lot to keep track of here. And yeah, guys, we'll take all the hope and prayers you guys have, for a fire, a hurricane. Hopefully the winds have some rain to go along with it. That's an image from just now. You want me to show that? All right, so here we just got a report here from Ikaika showing us the latest.
9:25. It should update in like a couple minutes.
Yeah, kind of our wind pattern here around the islands, right? You guys see the big island?
Storm.
The big island is right up there. You guys can't quite see. Yeah, you see that storm is much bigger than us, and even if the storm itself goes to the south, you see all this wind path up here. That this edge is going to actually come and hit us within the next few hours, actually.
So it's kind of a bigger.
Hopefully it brings some rain to the fire and not a lot of wind.
Yeah. Well, given what this looks like, I would say the rain is gonna start falling tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight, yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll put out the fire, and that's another important thing to all of us. So all right, thanks for that, Ikaika. Thanks, you guys, and we'll do our sign-offs. John, what are your words of wisdom?
No news is good news. I changed it again. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys, hopefully you guys are still getting all the knowledge you need to make decisions. Knowledge is power. But on behalf of everyone out here at the hub and people of Puna, I'd like to say,
stay classy,
stay classy, Puna. Aloha.
Aloha.